A murder that rocked an entire community.
She was out there playing with her grandson, and stopped and talked to the other neighbors and everything, and it's just crazy to picture them not here the next day.
And exposed a broken parole system.
They need to be gone. They need to be removed because they're not qualified.
For months, the Way 31 I-Team retraced the steps taken by this career criminal after the parole board mistakenly let him out of prison, up until the moment police say he killed 3 people in Guntersville.
And he hit her in the head, that's the blunt force trauma, with the flat back of an axe.
Who are you to play God and decide when somebody's supposed to be here or not?
We will show you the ways Jimmy Spencer tricked his parole officer, walked away from a reentry program, how police arrested and released him on drug charges, and a ranger cited him for carrying a weapon in a state park. But his parole was never revoked. He even walked in and out of a courtroom the same day police found the bodies of Martha Relaford, Marie Martin, and her 7-year-old great-grandson, Colton Lee.
Well, they run him NCIC, the National Crime Information Center, through dispatch. And that's when we found out that he was actually a DOC inmate on parole.
The Way 31 I-Team pressed the governor about error after error until she hit the pause button on most parole hearings.
The change you want is for every victim to get notified, so that's a no-brainer. There's lack of supervision somewhere.
Tonight, we take a closer look at how a violent criminal slipped through the cracks and give victims a voice to make sure nothing like this ever happens again.
You guys got out, you investigated, you found out things that we couldn't find out, and you never let up, and that's why we're here today.
This is a Way 31 I-Team special report, Voices for Victims. I'm Way 31 News anchor Dan Schaefer.
And I'm Way 31 News anchor Demetria McClinton. We are in Guntersville, where the murders of 3 people sent shockwaves across the state and all the way to the Capitol in Montgomery.
Governor Kay Ivey issued a temporary stop on all early parole hearings. She replaced the parole board chair and demanded a plan for change that must be finished in a little bit more than 2 weeks from today.
This is the house where Guntersville police found the bodies of Marie Martin and Colton Lee. Investigators say Jimmy Spencer suffocated and stabbed Marie Martin until she died, and then beat 7-year-old Colton Lee until he died.
Across the street, police found the body of Martha Relaford in her home, also suffocated and stabbed. That was Friday, July 13th. For days, people in this small community lived in fear. Then on Tuesday, July 17th, police announced they arrested Jimmy Spencer. The victims knew Spencer. He had visited Relaford's home several times. But their relationship changed when Relaford called police because she suspected that Spencer was stealing her prescription medicine.
When police arrested Spencer, the district attorney in Franklin County contacted Way 31's Brecken Terry. Joey Rushing told her he thought Spencer was already in prison, serving a life sentence for crimes he committed there.
That's when the Way 31 I-Team started digging into Spencer's past and why he was out of prison. Rushing told Way 31's Brecken Terry about the cracks in the system and how Spencer slipped right through.
It enrages me that he was out.
In 2013, Franklin County District Attorney Joey Rushing fought to keep Jimmy Spencer in prison. Spencer has a rap sheet dating back to 1983 for third-degree burglary in Franklin County. Rushing said Spencer violated his parole and received a life sentence on a separate burglary conviction from 1990.
The case that actually sent him to prison from here, he received a life sentence and a burglary charge for actually trying to go into an occupied residence, and the only way they could get him to stop trying to break in was to shoot him. So it was obviously a very serious offense, and it was a lot of violence in that offense.
Rushing said prison time for Spencer did not stop his violent behavior.
There was also a lot of violence in his assault down in prison, as well as the escape from prison. My understanding from the deputies that worked that, who contacted me yesterday, is that he made it known at that time that he was attempting maybe to come back to Franklin County to take some revenge on the people that sent him to prison.
Rushing said in his mind there is no doubt Spencer is a violent man. But despite his rap sheet, he was paroled in January 2018.
In my letter, I even referred to him as the type of person that doesn't need parole, because I would think of him as a violent person and definitely somebody with a number of prior felonies that would not be a good risk as far as to let out on the parole system.
Rushing tells us he was upset when he found out Spencer was arrested for killing 3 people on Mulberry Street in Guntersville.
The name immediately struck a chord. I was like, I wrote a letter on him and he shouldn't have been out. And I was mad all over again that a small child is a victim of somebody that should still be in prison and still serving his life sentence.
Spencer didn't spend the rest of his life in prison. Time after time, the parole board had opportunities to send him back.
A worker at a halfway house in Birmingham told Way 31 he alerted the parole board when Spencer walked away and never came back in late January or early February.
But the biggest mistake came in June. Police in Sardis arrested Spencer on drug and avoiding police charges. The department called the parole board. Again, Way 31's Brecken Terry uncovered what happened next.
Well, they run him NCIC, the National Crime Information Center, through dispatch. And that's when we found out that he was actually a DOC inmate on parole.
Police Chief James Harp described what his officers did after they arrested Jimmy Spencer. They entered Spencer's name into a national database and saw where he was on parole. Harp told me what he expected to happen next, but it never did.
Probation officers notified through NCIC by dispatch usually sent a message saying, hey, an officer from this department stopped this subject or made an arrest on this subject, and they in turn will get a message through NCIC sent to them.
Without any direction from the state, the law required investigators to let Spencer go after he went to court about a week after his arrest. Monday, I repeatedly called the parole board to once again ask the conditions of Spencer's parole and why nobody told police in Sardis to hold him.
We don't have a comment on that.
Harp told me his officers who arrested Spencer are struggling because of what happened next.
He felt like if he could have done something else, these people may still be alive.
Brecken joins us now. And Brecken, what should have happened when Sardis police arrested Spencer in June?
Well, his parole officers should have placed a hold on Spencer immediately, which would have left him in the Etowah County Jail for a lot longer than he was released for.
You also learned the parole board did not issue a warrant for his arrest until after he was arrested for murder.
No, they didn't. On July 6th, his parole officer requested that Spencer be made delinquent and a delinquency hearing be held on him, but nothing kind of happened after that until July 19th, when his parole officer again requested another delinquency hearing and requested that his parole be revoked. But we know on July 20th, the parole board actually requested an arrest warrant from the Department of Corrections, and on July 21st is when that arrest warrant was officially issued.
Thanks, Brecken. Now, the story may have ended here in Guntersville, but it began 30 years ago in Franklin County.
That victim is only talking to Way 31 about the parole board's decision.
And they're not qualified for the job or the position that they're in. That's the bottom line on it.
And what he regrets about his decision after catching Jimmy Spencer break into his home.
Vermin like this need to be snuffed out like a candle.